is the Shark Tank Roof Tank edition. And it's funny how this came about. Justin Judy, who is going to be our first presenter from ArcSite, I think he was talking to Heidi, and Heidi said, "You ought to talk to Karen." And during our conversation, um, he's going to share with us what his technology is that some roofing contractors have begun to adopt, commercial roofing contractors that are using it. And he said, "I don't know, is there a place for this in the roofing industry? Is this something that we should be moving into?" And we said, "Well, why don't you present to us and we can give you feedback, do a Q&A, get some thoughts on this." And so he said, "Sure." And then we said, "Why not have two to fill up our hour instead of listening to task team report outs, which can be kind of boring. We don't need to do that every time." So that's where this idea came from. And we're going to get started. So Justin, welcome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You should be able to share yours. I may have to change this setting.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll let you know if it doesn't kick up.
Okay.
It seems like it's fine though.
Awesome.
Yeah, shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, first I just want to thank you guys for letting me do this. Kind of like Karen just alluded to, I don't have any false pretenses of whether we are or aren't a good fit for roofing at this point. We do have quite a few roofers who keep coming to us, buying our software, using it, and saying good things. So that kind of drove me to do a lot of market research and try to figure out what we are or what we aren't to this industry. Roofing is nothing we ever really tried to dive into or market towards or anything like that. It just happened pretty organically. I'm kind of the opinion that we are a good fit for commercial and flat roofing, but residential roofing can be just kind of a cumbersome process because first and foremost, we are a drawing tool. We're a mobile CAD drawing tool. So everything you see me doing today will just be done on my iPad with my finger. It doesn't take any sort of long learned bulky skill sets to be able to accomplish much in ArcSite. But what makes ArcSite pretty unique compared to drawing tools we find is as you draw within ArcSite, it calculates everything you're doing. So all of your distances and measurements and square footages and squares of shingles. And as you drop and draw things in, it's going to create an automatic takeoff and a sales proposal for you. Now, I know roofers do things a lot of different ways, which is why I'm super grateful to be able to be here today with a huge group of you guys so you can get a lot of different insight at the same time. I would just love to hear your thoughts overall on the process itself. Does a tool like this have value? Does it not? I never really thought it did, just being honest, going into it originally for roofing, which is why we never really did it. And then a bunch of flat roofers latched on and they've reported great success. So I was like, I need to do a little bit of research here. We do have a couple of residential roofing companies, but they like to do things a very unique way, I'm being told, compared to the norm. So if you guys could help educate me to the norm and help me kind of understand, a little bit about what is value to the industry nowadays and what's the industry really looking for, that'll help us and my company decide where we want to go with this, if we want to go with it, so on and so forth. So be honest, be brutal, be however you want to be. I'm fine with it. I don't come in here with any sort of false expectations that I'm trying to be like, look how cool this is, and you guys are going to hate it. So no, it's one of those things where that stuff will never bother me. I'm here purely on a market research side of things, trying to dig into if we do or do not add value. So I won't take up too much of the time with the demo itself, but I'll jump into just a few different ways I've seen people use it. So we can import images or integrate with things, like an Eagle view or any sort of satellite imagery and draw over top of it and remotely measure areas and do all that sort of fun stuff. Or we can draw completely from scratch. So I'll start kind of with a couple different instances there and you can kind of see both. So if you're drawing out from nothing, just on a blank canvas on my screen, you can draw with any sort of a tool you want. Draw wall shapes if you're, build out shapes for your parapet walls, your solar panels, or your pipes, or your chimneys, or whatever. That can just be drag and dropped. But within ArcSite itself, everything's auto scaling. So it tells you how long everything you're drawing is, and you can quickly and easily create, a professional CAD drawing of, say, a residential home. You could go into that drawing itself and you can, cordon off and section off, different areas of that house and how the roofing may go. Now, as you do that, and as you're drawing in your designs and whatever, the real piece to the puzzle where I get hung up, where I'm trying to decide if there's value or not, is in the actual products of it. So you can grab, say a roofing product library, and we don't have an extensive one as of today because we only have, like I said, maybe half a dozen to a dozen customers using it residentially. But what you would do is you could choose either a bundle of products that would include an underlayment, shingles, everything together, or you can, grab one thing at a time. So maybe you want to tap in here. It'll immediately measure that out, give you an exact square footage of what you drew, and convert that to squares or however you order your products. You can drop in area products like I just did. You could go in and draw in a linear product, like a flashing product, and it's going to measure that and add it to a takeoff report as you go. You can drop in, different pipes and things as shapes wherever you're placing things around. If you want to notate where your vents are located, this would be more for commercial, of course. If you want to do skylight, solar panels, that sort of thing. When you're done completing a drawing, you can hit create legend and it'll immediately tell you what shapes and things you used on that drawing. You can then drop in things like title blocks and forms and whatever else it is you want to complete. When you draw something out with an ArcSite, it has the ability to do any amount of math you want it to do. It can do any sort of advanced math, Excel formulas, all that sort of stuff in the back end. So all you do is go in and say, what your pitch and your slope and things of your roof is. It'll automatically take that with all your different options and things you have built out, and it'll create a takeoff report for you there. And it'll tell you exactly how many linear feet of this are going in, how many vents, the total amount of the shingles is going to be, converts it to 5.6 squares, etc. So that's kind of how ArcSite works for all industries. It can be any sort of a product build out you guys like. You can go through and you can attach all your different industry info, warranty samples, any inspection notes, things that you take from a site. And these are pretty generic, of course. They're not going to be all very specific to roofing, but it does allow you guys to kind of picture what sort of stuff can be added in, color option charts for shingles, and then specify payment, apply sales tax, all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of how it works in the residential field, or really the commercial field. So it's a drawing tool at its base that as you draw, it just builds out this list for you. And then it turns all of that into a signable sales proposal that the client can then sign on site. So you're able to generate a professional signable estimate with photos, details, all that sort of stuff, kind of as you go. So it's one step instead of three. That's really our big selling point to the main verticals we're in, and it'll build out. This is 100% customized too. You can make this look any way you want, but cover page, what you're doing, what the price of the job's going to be. You can individually price it or bulk price it. You can run down from there, see any drawings, things that you took. They can sign right on the screen, any sort of warranty stuff, color charts, things that you want to go ahead and insert can just be simply inserted. One more piece that I want to touch on, because it's being used really heavily in the roofing we do, but I just kind of breezed past it a second ago, is we do have a location-based photo tool where you can simply tap wherever you're standing. So if you're standing in this corner of the roof, you can tap and you can take a live photo of something. So, I'm not on a roof, but if I take a photo of, say, this corner of my room up here, if you guys aren't Michigan Wolverine fans, I'm sorry, that's who I'm a fan of. So you have to deal with my picture. But then when your photo's in there, you can do the same thing. You can throw text annotations on it. You can say, where you're doing whatever sort of work it is you're doing, any sort of issues you see with it. And then those save geographically onto there. So you can say, hey, I was standing right here facing this direction, took that photo. And you can do that as many times as you want to help kind of iron out communication between the first person on site and the last person on site, because we all know that can be a little hairy sometimes. But are there any questions about what you just saw there? I know that was the 50,000 feet overview, but I wanted to at least get the concept down before I started walking through some more of the workflow questions and things I've heard so far.
Justin, what industries was this created for?
That's a really good question. It was actually developed and created by the senior product engineer at Autodesk for AutoCAD. His name was Payson. He is now my CEO and founder. So he left Autodesk, created this. He wanted an easy way for the average person to be able to have the benefits of AutoCAD type stuff in the field. He wanted it to be easy, that anyone could pick it up without technological experience and make a professional CAD drawing to scale in AutoCAD formats. I mean, these are DXF and DWG formats natively. So everything can be done at an engineering level very, very simply. Like it automatically knows how long and how big everything is that you do. So you can simply add dimensions to everything. it's kind of an auto scaling thing. And he wanted everyone to have that benefit without having to be an engineer. He's an engineer. He knows how to use AutoCAD very well. I am not. I do not know how to use AutoCAD very well, but I can use ArcSite really well because it's not hard. Everything I did was just dragging my finger around the screen. There's no inputs and formulas or any of that. We have different ways that you can measure and do all your different areas and angles. If you want to get a specific area of a roof, you can do this and it'll tabulate it as it goes. Those sort of commands and other programs are bulky. So he wanted to really democratize CAD to the masses. About 2 years in to the company being a company, it was just being sold as a drawing tool. A company approached him and said, hey, could you, if we're already drawing out all of these areas and we're notating all these things, could you apply data to those objects so that way we could get like quantities? And he was like, yeah, that's pretty easy. So he did that. And then it really started to blossom as a takeoff and an estimation tool. First industries that really grabbed onto it were site inspection and foundation repair and basement waterproofing. A lot of those, any industry where drawing is really a core component to what they do is what ArcSite has really latched onto, or they have latched onto ArcSite in both ways. It's been vice versa. But that was my main hesitation in roofing too, is I don't see many roofers drawing much, at least for residential. I could be wrong. That could just be me not knowing what I'm talking about, but I do hear that residential roofers rarely hand draw anything. They're using reporting, eagle view, hover, satellite imagery, whatever it may be 90% of the time, and they're not having to really draw much. The commercial guys like to notate a bunch of inspection points and take a ton of photos and actually walk a roof. Nowadays, I know roofing companies are trying to reduce liability by keeping people off of roofs in a lot of cases if they can, when it's not needed to be up there. So that's kind of what led me to a lot of this exploration is I know we work really, really well and speed up processes, add efficiency, all the buzzwords I could throw out, increase close rates, fun stuff. But if you don't draw, or there's no need to draw, ArcSite doesn't do what it's meant to do, because ArcSite takes the drawing data and does everything else with it. So it's kind of that inverse step of, is it needed, is it wanted, or is it just overkill and it's not even a typical workflow? So it's meant nowadays, it's evolved into an estimation tool for industries that draw. So if you're a pest control pro, you're required to submit drawings to municipalities for termite maps and wood destroying insects and things. We're used heavily there because they have to do it anyways. Way easier and more professional to do it digitally than on paper, especially if you can capture all the data more accurately. And it just kind of depends on any industry that draws. So our main verticals are foundation repair, basement waterproofing, fencing, concrete, artificial turf, pest control, things like that. Roofing was one that we know it's a massive industry. We know it's also very heavily served by technology already in comparison to some other home improvement industries. So that's why I've been treading a little carefully. And I don't remember how long ago it was the first time we talked, Karen, but it's been a few months. And we haven't really made a move on roofing in either direction because we're being very cautious on the entry to make sure that it's something that we don't want to force it where it doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, then we don't want to we don't want to even really engage in it per se. There was enough noise where we had to look into it just from clients, but that's kind of how we ended up where we were here today was, is the drawing a big thing or not? For residential, you guys can tell me better than I know. Are there anyone on this call that does residential roofing that ever hand draws a roof?
Not in probably 15 years.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the takeoff and the estimates and the proposals and things, automating those could save a little bit, but the drawing's going to add so much time, in my opinion, that it may not be worth it. If
I would argue that there's a lot of roofing contractors out there, residential guys that are not using technology. I think you're sitting amongst a group of people that is in the minority of who's using technology.
That's fair.
But there's a ton of people out there. Like I had a friend that got a roof done a couple years ago or before COVID, and she had 3 or 4 people that came over, contractors. None of them, they all had yellow pads paper. Nobody was using technology. We were blown away.
I think the distributors still receive fax orders, don't they sometimes?
Okay, maybe I see. This is why I come to these things, because you guys know so much more than me. I was like, boy, faxes. I can't tell you the last time I've sent a fax. I take it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I could.
Yeah.
Being a little facetious.
Yeah, I can kind of back up Jill too. My uncle's a roofer. He still hand draws. So I know a handful of people who do hand drawings. I don't know if it's the volume that you need, but it certainly is still out there.
And do you guys see if people are doing hand drawings, if the tool is as easy as it looks? I know I make it look easy, but I also draw on it all the time, so I'm pretty decent at it. But if it is as easy as it looks, is automating all of that material calculation, getting rid of all that math and auto creating signable stuff on site, does that bring a lot of value to this industry? Do people push for a one visit close? Are you trying to get that yes on site that day?
We aren't personally, but I think that's a huge chunk of the industry. I would guess the majority is going for one call closes.
Okay.
Insurance is a little bit different, but insurance projects are a little different, but on the retail side.
Yeah. We've had just this summer alone, my wife and I live in a single family home, and we've had, I don't know, 3 or 4 different people just knock and be like, can I give you a free roof inspection? I've told every one of them yes, and every one of them has been like, your roof's okay, and then they left. So no one gave me anything. I was hoping somebody would give me something at some point so I could compare it and be like, what are they doing? But no one gave me anything. They just leave. So our house is only like 7 years old, so they just look at my roof and then they go away.
This isn't
Yeah.
roofing related, but oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I've noticed that in retail this is more common. So in retail I see more drawings than I would see like a one call close. So I think maybe, yeah, retail maybe more so than insurance. So kind of mimicking what Joe was saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good
my
to
wife
know.
and I did a fairly major remodel about 4 years ago, and this would have been absolutely amazing for us to be able to sit and play with different, where this wall is going to go or where that wall, or how do we want to arrange our kitchen to send back to the designer to upload. I mean, this would have been absolutely incredible. We're like trying to hand draw this and trying to estimate using PDF blocks, and it was not optimal. So
Yeah, it can be a little tricky. And we try to take that out of reach sort of thing that, you know, designers and architects have their background in and make it simple. And we build out, you know, thousands of shapes and all these different categories that you guys can simply just go through and choose, you know, different shapes and things if you want to drop in. You know, if you go into the roofing library, there's going to be all sorts of basic industry shapes that you guys may or may not use to just drop and capture, so you don't even have to draw them. They just become, you know, a drop in a resize and a place it where you want to place it type thing. So we do that with,
Justin,
you know,
I
quite
had
a
a
few
quick
shapes.
question.
Mhm.
Yeah, Justin, I had a quick question. When you're doing this drawing, do you overlay it over imagery, or this is all, if you said this, forgive me, I didn't quite understand, is this all just from the measurements that the contractor's taking on the job site, and then they have to take those measurements and put it into the software? Or do they do it on the iPad as they're on the roof doing the measurements? How does that work?
Yeah, it can be either way. So we serve both workflows. I drew from scratch here. When you're creating a project for the first time, you can import anything you want. Like I imported and traced out an Eagle View report of my own home. So this might have been a hover. I don't know. Long story short, all I did was overlay an image here, an image that was given to me. And then I just applied the products to the specific areas with the different pitches and things. And then it built out my, oh, I don't actually have the products associated with this one, just the colors for drawing reasons. But yeah, as I don't have any of the products linked, that was just an image, but I dropped, this one was an overlay. This was an Eagle View report that I just applied products and markups and dropped my title block around, you know? So if you apply it to our existing image, it happens extremely quickly. If you go through and you go import and I drop in, you know, let me find like a satellite image of something, you can drop it in, it'll immediately jump up and ask you to calibrate it because it doesn't know how big anything is. Images can be really any size. So you just need any one known measurement. Maybe you go to this house or you use Google Earth's measure tool and you learn that this run, I'll zoom in to make sure it's absolutely precise, but you learn that this run right here is, you know, 9 feet. Now it knows by size how big everything is. So you can go through and use your measure tool and you can say, hey, how many square feet is this section? and you can simply just draw in your areas, and it'll tell you that this section right here is, 126 square feet. And you can do that over top of any sort of imagery. So you can do it either way. That's kind of comes down to the preference of the person. In most cases, I'm assuming you'd overlay over imagery because it keeps people off of roofs and it saves you time and effort. We have one customer who does residential roofing using ArcSite, and they don't even visit sites. They do it all remotely. They Google Earth it, they do the whole thing. They send off the ArcSite proposal. Once the people accept it, then they go inspect it and give them a change order only if something is crazy wrong. But they build in enough cushion into their projects where they just said that they don't ever have to do that. And then we have like company like Dan Schroeder Roofing, who does it with us for commercial and flat roofing. And they actually go on their roofs. They take a ton of photos, but if they're given a plan ahead of time to save themselves time, they'll import it, they'll trace it out, because once you're done tracing it out, you can simply go in and like turn off the background image and leave just what you drew. So they'll go in and trace it out, turn it into an ArcSite drawing, turn off their image, and then visit the site, because then every line becomes a modifiable line and they can apply things easier and save themselves time. So when they're riding there in the truck, they can doodle around. When they're sitting in the office in the morning, they can trace it out to help them save a bit of time. And then all they need to do is go out and capture the photos and check what they need to do and then create a proposal off of that. So it can kind of work in both workflows. And it really just depends on how you prefer to do it. Like if you're doing a new construction build, you probably get a blueprint. If you're just doing a re-roof or something like that. One guy door knocks using ArcSite, and he will build the whole proposal and then knock on the door and be like, here's everything. And then here's how much it would cost to redo your whole roof. I have no idea how successful he is. He just told me that's how he does it. So I never asked. I was like, do people actually buy roofs from you? I don't know. But he's like, yeah, I just build the whole proposal and then I show it to them. Like I already have it done by the time they answer their door. Because it's like, it doesn't take long. And I measured that in 3 seconds probably. So then you can just apply your products and end up with your takeoff and your quantities. And the math is pre-programmed by you guys. I mean, we help you do it. But if you calculate things a different way or use a different product, or maybe you use more or less of this or that, it's built per company. It's not just here's a roofing library, you have to use ours. We build it 1v1 with everybody. So yeah, does that answer the question on the imagery?
Yes, thank you. I know you're looking for feedback, and I will just say, in watching what you're doing and everything, there is, and if you already know this, there is a lot of technology in the industry who's already doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But the roofing contractors who are on here have a lot better insight than I do.
Yeah, no, I know that's what I was saying. It's pretty heavily served. I know that there's a lot of, automated tools that will give you all those quantities and things. And that's kind of why I've always been real hesitant, because I'm like, you can get an Eagle View report and it'll give you all your squares and footages and flashing mounts and all that sort of fun stuff, right? So like, what is our purpose and our point then, So that's kind of where I try to really sort out where we do or don't live in this equation.
What's your pricing model like, Justin?
So we have you just go to arcsite.com/pricing, it's all there, but we charge anywhere from $15 to $150 per license. So per person, for each company. So we have some people, we do have discounts for volume. Before you're like, I have 500 people. Do I have to pay you $75,000 a month? No, you don't. We figure that out. But we do have some people who have 300-400 licenses of this that are paying a per license thing. One of our largest customers is Johnson Controls. You guys have probably heard of them. They use it for security, fire, all sorts of site inspection. So it works really good there. But our pricing is just, if you just want to doodle and draw, $15. If you want to use it for full estimate, integrate with other softwares, measuring devices, because we integrate with all the different lasers and measuring tools like the Mosier device and things like that. Then you're up to like the $149 price. It can fall anywhere in between. We have 15, 35, 60, 119, and 149, depending on what you need. But it is per user per month, no contracts. We hate contracts. We don't like them, so we don't have them.
Start and stop whenever you want to.
Yeah, well, we live in Michigan. Like our company's based in Michigan. I know it's weird for a software company, but we are. So it's wintry and people don't go on roofs. I mean, you might have to sometimes if it's leaky or something, but traditionally a lot of our clients who do gutters was actually our first like roofing-ish industry. I know it's not roofing-ish, but people going up on roofs. And they like to just support the smallness of the iPads. They were using it a lot, but they shut down in the winter. They're not selling gutter jobs in the heart of when there's 4 feet of snow outside. 4 feet's a bit of an exaggeration, but so we let them, you can simply pause your account and start it up in March or April, you know, you can turn it off.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't lose anything. You get unlimited cloud storage and it stays there. We don't delete it. So if you leave and come back, your stuff stays.
So what other questions? You got about 4 or 5 minutes. What questions do you have from this group?
Yeah, just, it was kind of tough because I think my overarching thoughts are, from what I've done research wise, are maybe decently accurate, that there's a lot of competition in the space that's more automated than we are. The commercial space has been really good for us in flat roofing. Are there any like people on here who specialize in flat roofing or commercial? That's like your main, if you do both?
Yeah, Tony from NRP, Ken does a lot of commercial, Duralast. I mean, what are you guys, what are your thoughts?
It's Bill from Sika Sarnafil. I was just going to comment because obviously you were talking a lot about the residential perspective. So I guess that was my question is, I would almost think it would be a better market for you in the commercial side. And not only thinking of roofers going up and, you know, doing details, but certain manufacturers obviously do in inspections, right? So they might correct a detail for their installer with their inspector. And then another maybe kind of related but different persona is the roof consultant. You know, in the commercial side, there's a large volume of specifiers focused on commercial roofing, and they're up on roofs, you know, inspecting them and detailing them out for a replacement or a recover. And this could be a potential tool for them. There's a huge organization called IBEC. So that could be an interesting thing for you to investigate.
Yeah, what it was IBEC, like IBEC type of IBEC?
Yeah, they used to be called RCI, the Roof Consultant Institute, but then, you know, a lot of their firms started expanding into other building envelope kind of areas of business. So they changed their name. So it's International Institute of Building Enclosure Consultants.
That's, yep, the mouthful. Got it. I just wrote roof consultants and I'll look that up more later. But no, that sounds awesome. That's the perfect kind of insight we were looking for. Because like I said, our main customers that are larger, that are using it on a sales basis have mostly all been commercial with a few outliers. But sometimes those outliers do multiple things. So the versatility of having roofing and everything in one tool is maybe what's drawing them to it in some cases. So I was really trying to sort out like, is what we have here needed for that commercial industry? Is it a nice to have? You know, that's kind of where I really was sort of digging. I've been told the auto measuring is super nice, giving you an instant square footage off of imagery is nice. I know, because you can apply your products and get takeoff reports and stuff right away. Is there anything else I said that jumped out to anyone?
I had a question. This is Joanne Rodriguez, and for the commercial sector, it would be helpful if you're able to layer in codes and or code upgrades. There's an evolving landscape around energy codes, and you know, some owners, you know, would probably do an upgrade if they knew what that looked like. And I know for contractors trying to keep track of all of that. So being a platform company, if you're able to implement or integrate some of that, I think that that's a good value add to be able to offer in there.
Yeah.
And Jessie was on here. Jessie's with one click code. I think she left.
Yeah.
But,
No, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, good. I'm like, wait, we're talking codes.
Put the two of them together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, an interface there, because I think that that's a valuable tool when you can get all of those pieces combined. Because if you have a code section here, and then you have a roof section here, like how do they correlate in any given region? And for the contractor, it could be a huge upsell to say, you know, for 50 cents more per square foot, you'll, you know, exceed energy compliance or something like that. So that was just my thought.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. And Joanne, I mean, if you're open to a conversation sometime, we have an open API, and so we could talk about something like that. Just a thought, if it's something that you have any interest in, but we can, you know, sidebar that.
Justin, do you want to put your email information in the chat?
Oh,
email
that's
address?
a good idea. Yep.
And Justin, I'll put my information in the chat too. We're like the building code source of truth here. So any code questions you have, we could certainly talk offline about.
That would be amazing. And
Excellent.
Jill, you're an MSU fan. I don't know if I can dig that as much, but that's okay.
Wow. Justin,
No,
thank you.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm in
Thank
Grand
you.
Rapids, by the way, for anybody who's in Michigan or around Michigan. I'm just southwest of Grand Rapids.
We've got a couple Michiganders on here. Jill is Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I was screen sharing the whole time. So all the direct messages and stuff that you all sent, I'll catch up. I did not know they were all there. Now I'm seeing like 10 of them. I will catch up. And yes, Jesse, I got yours just now. I just sent mine.
Excellent.
But yeah, I don't want to take up any more of the next
Okay.
person. Here, so
So,
am I allowed
yeah.
to stay and watch though? 'Cause I am
Oh,
curious.
do you ask what? If you're allowed to what?
If I'm allowed to stay and watch the next one.
Oh, absolutely. Please do. Please do.